what I'd like to do now is transition into this model that I'd like to share. This is a model that I often share with clients in my first session with them. So most of my clients come to me when they're thinking about getting a divorce. They're trying to decide if their marriage is salvageable. So this model is the stages of change model that's often used in the recovery world. And I kind of changed it up a little bit and made it appropriate for someone who's experiencing marriage ambiguity. So anyone who's considering whether or not they want to stay in their marriage is experiencing marriage ambiguity. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. With this model, these are the stages that anybody would go through if they're making any major decision in their life. So that's why it's used in the recovery community, because these stages would apply if somebody's trying to just determine if they want to get sober. So, but in this way, the way we're going to be using it today, we're going to be using it in the context of trying to decide if a divorce is appropriate. So in the pre-contemplation stage, typically there's mostly hope in the marriage, but there's a little bit of doubt. So maybe you're starting to see some recurring issues in the marriage, and you're starting to wonder about those recurring issues and whether they can be fixed. So at this stage, you may even be considering marriage counseling. So at this stage, there is hope, mostly hope in the marriage, but a little bit of doubt starting to seep in. So then you might advance to contemplation. So in the contemplation stage of change, there's still hope, but the doubt is starting to get bigger. Sometimes you'll see this stage of change happen when marriage counseling has been attempted, but it has been a failed attempt. So contemplation is when you're starting to see the same fights happening over and over again. You're starting to really notice the dysfunction in the relationship, and you're starting to lose hope that it can be fixed. So that's the contemplation stage of change, but usually you aren't ready to do anything about it yet. So then you might advance to the preparation stage of change. In the preparation stage of change, you're starting to think through in your mind what the divorce might look like. You might have visited with an attorney to find out what the laws are in your area. You might be thinking about how you might financially split everything up. You might be even thinking through custody of the kids if you have them. So at the preparation stage of change, you're really kind of in your mind thinking it through, but you're not doing anything about it yet. So then you might advance to the action stage of change. And at the action stage of change, that's when you actually make the decision to part ways. And it might be a decision that's made unilaterally, or it might be a decision that is made with your spouse, but you make the decision to proceed with a divorce, and you let your spouse know, or you decide together. Once you reach that stage of change and you've told the kids if you have them and you've separated, then you're down here at the bottom of the circle. You're at the post-action stage. And when you're at the post-action stage of change, sometimes there is this fear and anxiety that will bubble up. So you've got this big, scary unknown ahead of you. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh my God, what's my life going to look like? Do I really want to date again and start over? What are those dating apps all about? That seems kind of scary. The online dating, I don't want to do that. Or you might actually just be trying to get your feet under you as a single person. Maybe you aren't even thinking about dating, or maybe you've even experimented a little with dating and had a few dates, and it's been disappointing. So if that's the case, you might be starting to get nostalgic about what you came from. It might start to look comfortable and familiar. You might think to yourself, you know what, I did that for X number of years, and I know I can do it again. And I'm gonna go back to that because that's what feels familiar and comfortable to me. And there's really no real change happening. You're just going back to what's familiar out of fear and anxiety. So that is reconciliation B. That is reconciliation B. The other option is maybe you've been out on your own, you've had a few dates, and you and your former spouse are starting to have conversations that have a depth that wasn't there before. Maybe you're starting to take ownership. You're both taking ownership in a way you didn't before. Maybe you're starting to see each other's perspective in a way you didn't before. You decide, you know what, this marriage is worth, I see why we fell in love, and this marriage is really worth trying to fix. So you get into marriage counseling again, or you try it for the first time and you really dig in. You do the heavy lifting, and you really break through that anxiety in the marriage, that homeostasis in the marriage, and you get to this higher level of functioning. It's like marriage 2.0. It's a better marriage than the one you had before. It's bigger, better marriage. That is reconciliation A. And honestly, if you're going to reconcile, that's the only reconciliation you want to go for. Because if you do reconciliation B, you're probably going to go back through these stages again, and you might do it again and again until you end up over here in divorce. So you really are just, in most cases, kicking the can down the road, or you're going to stay locked in a really dysfunctional, unhappy marriage. And you're not doing anybody any favors if you do that. So what I find in my practice is that most people will bounce around between pre-contemplation, contemplation, and maybe preparation and reconciliation B. So you kind of do this cycle, and then you never really get to action. You might flirt with action or get right up to the line of action, but you don't actually take action. So most people will do that cycle. They've been doing it for years, usually by the time they come to see me. So, and my goal in my work with my clients is to say, okay, first we want to rule out whether or not, we want to determine whether or not reconciliation A is even an option for you. And if it is, let's talk through what that might look like and how you might go about it, and how you might approach your spouse, and what conversation you might want to have with them. And I'll coach you through that conversation. If that's not even a possibility, then we want to honor each of these stages. Take your time, slow down, honor each one of these stages of change, and they're unique for everybody. And then we want to move to divorce. And we want to, if you take it slow, if you slow it down, it tends to go so much better for the whole family. So you might ask yourselves, so Sherry, are you pro-divorce? And the answer to that is no, I'm not pro-divorce, even though divorce is part of my brand. I am pro-healthy marriage, healthy, happy marriage. If you are stuck in a dysfunctional marriage that cannot be fixed, no matter what, and you're doing it for the kids, you are not doing anybody any favors. And I cannot articulate that enough. Staying in an unhappy, dysfunctional marriage for your kids' sake is not doing them any favors. You're not doing yourself any favors, or your spouse any favors. So I want you to take a minute and think about what was modeled for you when you were a child. What did your parents model for you? And how might you be repeating some of that in your own marriage? Would you want for your kids what you have right now in your marriage? So those are all things that you want to consider as you are weighing your options right now. So in a future episode, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the attachment theory. And the attachment theory is all about how we attach to our caregivers and what's modeled for us, and how that impacts how we show up in our own relationships. So I just think it's very important that if a marriage is not salvageable, that you consider divorce. If it is salvageable, absolutely make a go of that. But it's better to be happy, healthy, fulfilled, united co-parents, if that's possible, than it is to stay in a really unhappy, dysfunctional marriage for your kids' sake. I'm going to suggest that you check out my website. It's divorceresiliency.com. On my website, you will find services that I offer. I try to make something available to anyone, no matter your budget. I do offer in-person, HIPAA-compliant virtual sessions in the states of North and South Carolina. By the way, I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, if you can't tell from my accent. I'm going to be adding more states in the future, so stay tuned for that. I offer individual sessions for people that want to have a safe space to be able to talk to someone and know that it's going to be confidential. I'll offer the individual sessions for that. I also offer divorce coaching and discernment counseling sessions for couples. Now, those tend to be limited in scope, usually around 5 sessions, and they are not considered marriage counseling. Discernment counseling is for couples who who have marriage ambiguity, and they're trying to decide which direction they want to go in. Usually one of 3 paths is chosen. Either you choose to commit to the marriage and try to shoot for that reconciliation A, or you choose the divorce path, or you choose a path of staying as it is. And just in my mind, that's just kind of kicking the can down the road. But if I work with you as a couple, we can talk through that and what that might look like. Divorce coaching for couples tends to be more about both people have decided that divorce is the path chosen, and they want to know how to go about that in a way that's not adversarial. My individual sessions can fall usually under 3 camps: thinking about it, going through it, or recovering from it. So anybody who's anywhere on that divorce spectrum, I can work with you individually. So I also offer a masterclass / support group called From Survive to Thrive. So that group is for women, and it is limited to 8 women, and it's offered for 8 weeks virtually via Zoom. And it's you have an opportunity to share in the group, but you also have some education to it where you learn how to change how you show up in relationships. It's a lot of the information that I share in my book, and as well as in my individual sessions, and it's available in a group setting. Coming soon will be From Survive to Thrive e-course. So I'll be offering that same information in an e-course format that's downloadable. That will be coming soon. And then I'll also have a book. I kind of give you a high-level overview of everything you need to know about a divorce. It's called Divorce Resiliency: Release the Trauma of Your Divorce and Reconnect with Your Best Self. In the book, I share a little bit more detail about my personal history, my family history, and what led me to do this work. It's a short book. It's only about 150 pages, but it packs a powerful punch, gives you everything you need to know to get through it. So that book is available on Amazon, and there's also a link available on my website. So to wrap up for today, hopefully this podcast episode is kind of giving you an overview of what to expect and whether or not this podcast will benefit you. If you have a story that you feel might be inspiring that you'd like to share, please email me at info@divorceresiliency.com. Also, you can email me there if you have a topic that you think might be interesting to share. So I look forward to getting to know everybody better, and I hope that you find the information that I share useful. This is kind of a culmination of my life's work, and I'm thrilled and excited to be able to share it with you.